This is a Voigtlander 35mm f1.2 Mark III. Compared to the previous generation, the Mark II, the most significant difference is a 30% reduction in weight. The Mark III weighs only 332 grams. I've heard that a fourth generation has already been released, even lighter at just 300 grams. Let's get back to the Mark III. It's one of the lightest lenses in the 35mm focal length with f1.2 aperture. Among Leica M-mount lenses, it's also the only f1.2 option. Leica native lenses only offer a 35mm f1.4. In fact, most manufacturers don't produce a 35mm f1.2. This is because for wide-angle lenses, jumping from f1.4 to f1.2 while pursuing high image quality significantly increase the size. For example, Nikon recently released an autofocus Z-mount lens that is massive and expensive. To achieve f1.2 aperture while keeping it so lightweight, the Voigtlander must have made some compromises in image quality. My constant opinion is that if you want higher image quality, you must accept a heavier lens. This is determined by physical limitations and, of course, a higher price, which is determined by commercial realities. There is no lens in the world that offers a f1.2 aperture, is lightweight, and delivers exceptional image qualities. So you should temper your expectations for this lens. This lens costs around $800. I once owned a Zeiss 35mm ZM f1.4, which costs $1,700 new and about $1,200 used. I have since sold it. The Leica native 35mm f1.4 close focus version I currently own costs around $4,000, and even used is not much cheaper. So in terms of price, $800, $1,700 and $4,000. These are completely different price tiers. For the Voigtlander at this price point, you shouldn't be too demanding. Let's talk about build quality first. In today's world, the Leica M-mount manual lenses are not primarily seen as productivity tools by most people, but rather as tactile mechanical toys. When manually focusing, you interact with the lens, turning the focus ring and the aperture ring. Beyond the image in the optical viewfinder, you also enjoyed the tactile pleasure of manual focusing. In terms of build quality, Leica is better than Zeiss, and Zeiss is better than Voigtlander. Among the three 35mm Leica M-mount lenses I've used, Voigtlander has the lowest build quality, but don't worry, this is normal. It's also the cheapest and lightest of the three. The Voigtlander 35mm focus ring is slightly looser but has no wobbling. In contrast, the Leica 35mm focus ring is tighter and heavier, especially when shooting vertically, where you can feel more damping. The Voigtlander 35mm has a minimum focus distance of 0.5 meter, while the Leica gets closer at 0.4 meter. The Leica 35mm focus ring has a noticeable stop when turning from infinity to 0.7 meter, indicating you are entering the close focus range, where rangefinder focusing becomes ineffective. Whether close focus capability is necessary for Leica lenses is subjective. For me, with wide-angle lenses like 28 or 35mm, close focus shooting is common, so this feature is essential. For 50mm or longer focal length, a 0.7m minimum focus distance is sufficient. So I'm not interested in Leica's new 50mm close focus version. The Voigtlander's aperture ring is also looser, with a crisp sound when turned. The Leica's aperture ring is tighter, with a more muted sound. Leica lenses have electronic contacts on the back for data communication, while Voigtlander does not. You need to manually set approximate focal length information in the camera. I usually set it to Leica 35mm f2 lens to indicate the 35mm focal length and f1.2 aperture. Since I don't own any 35mm f2 lens, this avoids confusion. In terms of image quality, neither lens is particularly sharp, especially at wide open apertures. For the Leica M11's 60% megapixel sensor, they can feel a bit underwhelming, so I often set the camera to 36 megapixels. Comparatively, the Leica is sharper. At maximum aperture, the Leica f1.4 produces sharper images than the Voigtlander f1.2. Of course, the Voigtlander's half-stop larger aperture allows more light, which is an advantage of f1.2. Stopping down to f1.4 improves sharpness. Ultra-large aperture lenses prioritize mood and atmosphere over absolute sharpness. f1.2 aperture is great for gathering light, but challenging for focusing because of the shallow depth of field. Whether using rangefinders or focus picking, it's easier to miss the focus. For example, when shooting portraits, you might aim for the eyes, but end up with the focus on clothing instead. Even slight movement can shift the focus point. This issue is less noticeable with f1.4 lenses, but with f1.2, when focus is successful, the result is excellent. The Voigtlander's biggest issue is a yellowish tint in images, with automatic white balance often being inaccurate. Leica native lenses seem better optimized for white balance. In sample photos, the Voigtlander images are noticeably yellower, with a white balance of 4450 K and a tint of 23. The Leica is more accurate, cooler, with a white balance of 3750 K and a tint of 13. This issue typically occurs in low light conditions, especially indoors with complex lighting. Occasionally, the Voigtlander white balance performs normally. The out-of-focus quality is similar between the two lenses, though I feel the Leica is slightly better with more complete light spots and smoother bokeh. In daylight, the Voigtlander color rendition shows no significant issues. In terms of both build quality and image quality, the Leica 35mm lens outperforms Voigtlander across the board. But let's return to the prices. These lenses are 5 times apart in cost. For an extra $3,200, you get 0.1 meter closer minimum focus distance, a built-in metal lens hood, electronic contacts for lens data, better white balance, slightly better bokeh, and sharper images at maximum aperture. Additionally, Leica's overall build feels more refined and artistic. Is spending so much more worth it? Honestly, from the perspective of image output, it's not. The image quality difference doesn't justify a 5-fold price gap. The most significant issue, white balance, can be fixed in post-processing or by using manual white balance. That said, Leica lens is undeniably better. If your budget is enough, Leica won't disappoint. You get an almost artistic build quality. If you only occasionally use a 35mm lens or have a limited budget, the Voigtlander is a great choice. It delivers 80% of Leica's performance at 1/5 of the price. I first bought the Voigtlander and used for a while. Then I found a used Leica lens at a good price, saving about $700 compared to the new, roughly the cost of a Voigtlander, making it feel like the Voigtlander was free. After getting the Leica, I rarely used the Voigtlander. I keep it on my monochrome M246 camera to avoid the white balance issues. I'm planning to sell it and try other lenses. That's all for today's video. See you next time.